I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
We are AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we are watching My Hero Academia, Season 6, Episode 18. Last episode was one of my favorite episodes of all of My Hero Academia. I just think that the Endeavor storyline with Dabi, Toya, the whole family.
The whole Todoroki family storyline, I think, is one of the best.
It's so well written.
One of the most entertaining narratives in the show.
Definitely. And they're letting it breathe, which is really nice. I think that it's one of the strongest parts of My Hero Academia. So I love letting it breathe. I love seeing it.
I completely agree with you. I think it is one of the strongest pieces.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see how it develops, where it goes, what the team versus Dabi is going to look like. Yeah, is it just emotional support? Are we going to get Ray out there, throwing some punches?
Yeah.
I don't know. But
throwing some hot boiling water?
Maybe. Oh, God. That's her attack? That's horrifying. Okay. Anyways, next episode, I'm assuming Midoriya and the holders, right? The past holders.
We know
of
that
One for All.
He's in a coma, and we got kind of the idea that he's probably dreaming, probably having a conversation with the past holders.
Do you think All Might's gonna be there? I think he will be, based off of his dialogue last episode.
I'm not quite sure exactly how it works. I feel like there could be a part of his consciousness that is there.
If you had to make a bet, is he going to be there or not?
Sure.
Sure? Same. Okay, you ready?
I know sure isn't a very confident bet, but...
Yeah. You good?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, that was My Hero Academia, Season 6, Episode 18. The final act begins. We talked about it, when we were in our last big battle, and we're thinking when the story is gonna end, when it's gonna
how
wrap up.
How much more time it needed? We were trying to figure out what would feel satisfying.
I'm actually incredibly happy that we got the final act, that title, because I think that pacing wise that would make the most sense. I mean, with where we are with the where we are with the whole Endeavor family, Todoroki family, and Izuku and One for All itself. I think that this is the lead up to the end, and it actually feels like it.
The tone, but also what happens from the aftermath is, in this episode, All Might says a line, something to the effect of, the stage is different now.
Yeah.
The stage has changed. And obviously the previous reasons for not telling anyone and keeping Deku safe from everyone knowing this knowledge, everything's different now.
Yep.
The world is already in chaos, and hence the final act can begin now, because the tides have changed. Things aren't, you can't go back to normal school life anymore.
Yeah.
The school is now a shelter.
It makes sense why Deku left, regardless of the public knowing all the details, because obviously they can track him down using All for One. It's Shigaraki's quirk at this point, right?
Search.
Yeah. And so it's just like a heat-seeking missile the second they decide to go after Deku.
It's all I can imagine is now that he has danger sense, it's search versus danger sense. And it's almost like cat and mouse. They're just going to be going like this, and he's going to have to keep bouncing from location to location. He's going to have to be very kind of flexible and open to movement, and he can't do that when he has a stationary home that he lives in.
I wonder what danger sense is actually if the details of it. I wonder if it's proximity or if it's intent. What if we got a really cool visual the second Shigaraki locked on using search, regardless of how far away Deku knew he was locked on to, That'd be pretty cool.
We only got this little visual of him fighting with the user that's quirk was Black Whip, and he was dodging every single Black Whip.
Yeah.
But you're right that we don't know the actual how far away, the distance that you could sense the danger.
I think Shinomori, did you get his name?
Shinomori, I believe, was what it was.
Died when he was 40 because he had a quirk.
Technically old age.
Yeah,
isn't
that's nuts. That's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that Mirio didn't get it, right?
I know, and they were like, if we had learned this sooner or been open about this knowledge sooner, it would have protected certain people from suffering. And obviously, Night Eye, Mirio come to mind. They obviously showed the visual of Night Eye, and it's true. If Night Eye had known that it needed to be someone whose glass was empty in order for that person to live a long life, kind of building the strength of this, using this quirk as their own.
Yep.
He never would have pushed the idea that it should be Mirio.
Yeah. Or maybe, like, if not Night Eye, but like the idea of putting strong quirks into this so that one day, you know, a person could utilize a bunch of cool things.
And it's like, is there really in this generation going to be another quirkless person? You brought up a really great question during that, though, which was, what if it was someone whose quirk was already taken?
Yeah, so that's the thing, because they brought up a great point of it's getting more and more endangered to have, right, the species
they called
of
it
humans
an
without a
endangered
quirk.
Species,
yeah.
The quirkless.
And that is a great plot point to go with, but it does raise the question, if your quirk's taken from you and then you're given it one for all, do you suffer the same repercussions? I wouldn't think so, right? Mm-hmm. Because you don't have anything and there's nothing in your cup anymore.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to go with the fact that Deku could give it to someone as long as their quirk was gone.
Yeah.
But it would have to be someone who All For One stole the quirk of.
I'm with you. I think that I have a new favorite character in the show. N. Yeah, I know nothing
just
about
by
him.
the design, the way he's sitting in his chair.
You hit the nail on the head. Those are all
you
the reasons
love all
that
of
I love him. Yeah. I love him to death, and I don't know what his quirk is yet.
So I think we were thinking originally that all of the chairs were filled with people whose quirks Deku already has access to, but I think by the end of this conversation, I was under the impression that it might be they're divided. And the two against the wall aren't cooperating with any planning.
They're in timeout.
They're in timeout.
They're petty and pouty.
It's either that it could be two things. Either they don't want to cooperate in general because they don't want to be involved in this, or they don't share the same sentiment and resolve that Deku shares with the people that are seated about the fact that there's a child that needs saving.
Yeah.
And that they are divided in that aspect of, does he, you know, because the words were used of like a test, like that was a test of his resolve, you know, to see if he was actually realizing, that was a test for her to be so harsh in her language like that about how he's irredeemable and all of this stuff. Maybe they actually feel that way and that he needs to just be killed and not saved in any aspect.
Yeah. So I made the point that the guy in the back looked like Bakugo based off of his posture and then
the hair shape, I guess.
And then at 6:59, he has gauntlets too.
He does.
The time travel.
They both look like Naruto characters.
They do look like Naruto characters, but
they definitely do.
We have to talk about them. In like, obviously, it's like, oh, he looks like Bakugo, but like that's not how this story works. But what does interest me is that they have the same uniform. So,
they were 2 and 3, and then the fourth wielder.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So I want to talk about them because we don't have a lot to go off of in terms of N when it's to like speculate, but we have a bit to go off of with them. We know that they're second and third, we know that they're in the same uniform. That's enough for me because that means as far as I'm decently confident that they knew each other in their lives, right? And if they knew each other, then they could potentially have worked together or like been a team, and that's why they'd have the same clothes.
And were able to pass it to each other upon death. Like they were a team.
It gives me that vibe more than like a student teacher.
Right. Like if we were going to go to the kind of era of One for All's existence, the original guy, the brother.
Yeah.
It was a time where quirks were still kind of this new thing that some people were scared of, some people were intimidated by, people were it was still very new, and there was still probably a great population of people that didn't quite maybe have a quirk, and these two possibly could have been a hero team up that tried to fight All for One, and therefore One for All decided to help them out because he saw their resolve. I'm not sure. Like,
well, One for All didn't have much power at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, really.
Nothing.
So what happened with him to be able to even pass his quirk on? What would have had to happen to, transfer that over? We know that All for One gave his brother the quirk.
Yeah.
But, and why are they standing against the wall? Obviously, they don't agree with something. I imagine that they don't like the idea of saving Shigaraki, and they are not as cool with it as the rest of the people are who are sitting in the chair. I'm not saying that they're all like, oh yeah, save him, but they're probably more opposed.
They know that death is probably what needs to happen, or will be happening, or has to happen, but there's still an aspect of your intent in doing so, and for the soul and the consciousness of that person to be considered. It
is kind of nutty that he has the gauntlets and his posture and hair looks like Bakugo, right?
Yeah.
That is a little wild. I wonder if it's like some ancestor.
Possibly. That would be crazy.
Have we ever gotten anything so in your face in this show that doesn't lead to anything? Like in regards to Dabi and his heritage, or like any of the like things that we find out later on, I guess.
I just thought of something. I'm pretty sure that they say that only Shinomori was their first example of someone who died of old age, right? And
that means these people didn't, yeah.
The other people, they didn't either died in battle, or they didn't know enough about, like, didn't realize beforehand from their experience. Those two, you see how they have gear on them? It could be that they were quirkless and they were using gear.
That's not a bad idea.
And then that's why Shinomori, the fourth wielder, is our first example of the cup was already had a quirk in it, therefore it overflowed.
Yeah. My interpretation of it was that they didn't live long enough.
See, I was taking that maybe for the other two people sitting in the chairs.
That they didn't?
Nanashimura. I think either Banjo or En were the example for the other person that died of old age.
So the reason that I think that it's the live long enough thing ties back to what I said a couple minutes ago. Until they're in the same gear, I think that they know each other and not be successors, right? In the other cases, it seems like they had One for All for a while, and then they passed it on to somebody else after having it for a bit.
Yeah.
And because Shinomori was isolated himself and got to the point of old age, he was the first example, But these two, if they did know each other and aren't like a huge age gap apart, it could be because either they died, or the idea of, when did the knowledge that this is like a stockpile come about? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
no clue.
if I'm One for All, like the original, the brother, God, I forget his name. I wish I didn't. But if I'm him and I somehow obtain the knowledge that this, like, I can stockpile this, and I'm not strong enough yet, my goal would be to, like, okay, let's get the most powerful quirks that we can and pass them on, so one day we can stop it.
Which is similar in a way to what All for One thinks, which is get the most powerful quirks possible in order to be unstoppable.
Yeah, but if these two didn't live long, or were forced to pass it on in quicker successions based off of them wearing the same exact gear and uniform, right? If they were friends, that I think would go to support their resolve in opposing the potential of saving Shigaraki, and more resolved at, like, bro, we died for this, you gotta kill him, you gotta end it.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, it's definitely important to note that they are basically 2 and 3.
Exactly.
They are the ones that probably lived during the exact time the All for One was like starting to come into power and
Yeah.
be terrifying, basically.
This is like, we never get this kind of shit in My
And
Hero
it's like-
Academia. I'm so happy.
One reason that they could be in so much opposition is because they might feel to blame for All for One even getting to the point, and all of these people's lives that are sitting in these chairs, that it's still happening.
Yeah.
Because they were like the first line of defense. They were 2 and 3, you know?
Yeah.
After the brother of All for One. So they might kind of be at odds because they are, I don't know, because they weren't able to stop All for One before now.
Does, like, I cannot just continue to, like, help but continue to acknowledge the similarities between this dude and Bakugo. Like, in this shot, you can even see his hands. And
They're like in fists.
Yeah, and then his posture, the way that his, like, shoulders go out the back is so Bakugo-like. It has to be, like, an ancestor or some shit, dude. No, like, just a coincidence? I don't know how it'd ever pay off, though.
I don't know how it would, like, yeah, hey, Bakugo, guess what? I met your great-great-great-great-grandfather the other day.
Like,
in my
turns
dreams.
out they're related or something. I don't know. It's kind of like a relation. It's so interesting. It's hard not to just, like, talk about the past users. I want to know about them so bad.
It was a big, I feel like anytime the past users in this season have had conversations or been brought up, it's somewhat of like an information dump. Like here you go. And I'm like, ooh, trying to like read
Get
and
everything,
process
yeah.
every little piece of information, which a lot of times I've found that when it is kind of in this plane with the vestiges, I find it hard to completely process everything that's being said.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I don't know
it's
why
so much
it is. Is
information.
it because it's so much, or the rapid fire of the conversation, the amount of words and dialogue that's being used?
I feel like it's because we never get it.
So then we're not used to the pacing of it?
And when we are given it, we're like trying to get everything because and we're just not used to it.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't feel like I'm like getting all of it. Like, so I would really love to kind of rewatch that scene at some point just so I make sure like I understand everything.
Doesn't it feel like it's going in the direction of The Last Airbender? Like, oh, I don't know if I should kill this final boss. I don't know what to do with him. Just gonna take his power away or something. I don't know. I wanted to read the line. Last two, I promise. Like, last second of talking about these two. But you two better start helping soon too. And then it goes back to them.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
She's still talking about him.
And then this guy has like what? Like, it looks like engines. Like, reminds me of like Ida, like coming out of like the top of his gear, and he has like a bandana that kind of reminds me of Stain's a little bit in color.
Interesting.
But here's
Ida
my
and Stain together.
Here's my like question here, right? We don't know N's quirk. We don't know these two's quirk. It's going to be hard for us to guess N and the blue-haired ones based off of just visual appearance. All we have to go off of is the little engine thing. The guy who looks like Bakugo, though, if his quirk, would it make sense for Deku to inherit a quirk somewhat like Bakugo's?
I'm not sure, because we spent like the last season or two focusing on making his legs the weapon. Like, using Ida's inspiration, because his arms have been so wrecked from, like, 4 seasons of him only using his arms and, like, severely shredding them. So for him to get a quirk that involves his fists and his arms, I would say that would be a little worrisome for me. Okay.
So what if it... So as quirks... As time goes on, quirks get stronger, right? We have different marriages of quirks and then development and evolution of it to get to a certain point. Bakugo has a very, very good quirk. There's a chance that this quirk is like Bakugo's, but not exactly his. Mm-hmm. Bakugo uses his gauntlets to store up nitroglycerin so that his explosions have more power. But he already has the base ability to explode things, you know, to ignite that. What if this guy, like, only could store the nitroglycerin and couldn't ignite it, and he needed, like, a gear to do it? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see, like, think, like, what could it be that would fit in with Deku's current moveset?
Like, yeah, what else could be added
He's
to
flying.
Deku to help him actually fight All for One?
he's like a flying Spider-Man right now who has super strength. He has a little bit of range with Black Whip. It could be something more range-based, maybe.
I mean, we do get, I think it might have been in this season that we got kind of flashes to training that Deku was going through from different friends who had quirks that were similar to some of the ones that he was inheriting, and he was needing help with Black Whip. He was starting to train for Float.
Yeah.
And so it's like, Uraraka, this guy reminds us of Bakugo. This guy has engines like Ida. And I'm like, okay, so are we going to be using all of our friends to help train?
Bakugo would be
school,
pissed if Deku got a quirk like his, dude. He'd be so mad.
Wait, did we not... Oh my gosh. In the end, when everyone's reading their, like, letters from Deku where he's being specific to them, we didn't see Bakugo get a letter.
I would love to talk about that, though, because this is one of the, in my opinion, strongest steps forward in a romantic direction this in between Uraraka and Deku the show's ever taken. Mm-hmm. Like, to single her out as her person reading the letter and then calling Deku an idiot and thinking back to her who's going to save the people, you know, the heroes who save other people.
Because we know that that's a line that she directly thinks of when she thinks about him. Because we've already gotten her saying her resolve in her mission, her personal mission with him, and specifically the scene of him getting Black Whip.
That... I'm so interested to see what's to come of this, because, like, do you think they're going to go in a romance direction? Like...
I think that this is the perfect time, too, with the fact that now all of the fun days together as friends and fellow students have ended, and he has completely been, like, left them. He's left to fight on his own, which is, like, Uraraka's, like, worst fear. It is exactly what she would hate, is that he is going to run off into battle alone without his friends and without her able to help him or be there for him. And so I think this is the perfect time for any kind of momentum in terms of, like, realizing feelings.
Is there any potential parallel from what Ida did with to avenge his brother with Stain and going off by himself and Deku leaving here? Like, do you think that if it comes to it, Ida/Todoroki could have something to say to Deku in the same vein of, you know...
Unfortunately, I think with the current circumstances, they don't have as much credence with what they would say to him that they did in the past talking to Ida. That was a different time. It was a different stage. Deku really is the one with the heat-seeking missile, as you said earlier, but focused on him.
I'm sure they'd still be like, okay, we get your point of not wanting to endanger people, but we're here for you, and we want to fight with you. Like, we wouldn't want you fighting by yourself. We'll help you, you know?
Yeah, but it's also, like, they need to be focusing on other things. These hero course students... I mean, there's still turmoil in the streets. There's still all these other villains other than All for One. And all these heroes that are retiring or disappearing, you know, from the scene, they are needed. They have a job to do as well. Not just, like, it's not like Deku's running away and they're all like, but we want to help fight too. Like, they also have a lot of work to do. Yeah. That's important. That's, like, the society's in chaos. And so... It's different circumstances. I totally like talking about them in terms of, like, compare and contrast. Yeah. Because especially that we're getting Stain back in the conversation.
Oh. I think you're right that we didn't see Bakugo at all, so now I'm just envisioning Bakugo in the corner, like, crunching his fist like Arthur, being like, why didn't I get a letter?
We didn't get Todoroki, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think we got either of them. Which they're the two that I would say are more likely to be teamed up with Deku in the future because of the fact that they all trained under Endeavor together. And
what do you think Bakugo would feel like if Deku just didn't leave him a letter? Like,
he probably would be like, good, I wouldn't have read it anyway. And if he did leave him one, he probably would have burned it or something and not read it.
It's like and then it's like when they finally meet up again, and it's like Bakugo's like kicking like water in the corner, like a puddle. Be like, why didn't I get a letter? Like, dude, Kamui Woods with hair.
His hair. I love it.
I'm like really attracted to a piece of wood right now.
I know.
Like, it's crazy.
This hair choice it's awesome.
And then Mirko too.
I know. Mirko's awesome.
Aizawa has an eye patch.
I wonder if
Midnight.
We have Mount Lady holding Midnight's mask. At first I was like, what is she holding? And then as soon as you said it, I was like, I am so dumb. How did I not realize that was what she was holding?
That was a good episode. A lot of information.
Yeah, we had stuff like true quark. That this has now become Deku's true quark. We had the idea, I wrote this down because I like the word choice, that Shigaraki has been invaded.
Yeah.
I liked that word choice. Adults who keep failing and making a 16-year-old settle the score. I wrote that down too because I liked that. And then one of the last things I liked from this episode was that at the very end of this kind of dream conversation with the vestiges, the original One for All says that he's really glad you two got this quirk.
Yeah.
Or were the successors. And then, at the same time that he's saying this, we have All Might's consciousness crying over Deku's resolve.
Yeah.
And I just really thought that was like a beautiful moment, that it's like All Might and Deku really were like the perfect people to get this, and to have them be so thankful for the fact that these were the two kind of the people that are going to end it, the final act.
Yeah.
That I really liked that. And then, Our Hero Academia, and then final act.
I wrote down the All Might crying in real life too, because like that's confirmation that it's not just like a separate part of him who has no idea of what's going on in here. He has some connection to the vestige world that he can be there for.
I think after we had this scene, All Might said something to the effect of that he didn't know exactly what was being said, but he had some feelings about some things.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Our Hero Academia.
It's kind of like they said the name of the show in the show.
I know, and I like it because it's at the time where Deku is separating himself from all of his friends.
And his family. His mom's there.
Before it was like my, and it was that like singular kind of word, and then now once he's left, we're using our.
Yeah. Deku's mom is like, oh, I finally get to live with my son again. He just leaves.
JK, I'm living with Bakugo's mom.
Yeah. Alright, that's all I have you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.